You're listening to PetLifeRadio.com.
Okay, class, take your seats. I said take your seats. Class, sit. Shh. I swear you're all acting like a bunch of animals. Pet Life Radio presents Teacher's Pet, where you'll learn how to understand and communicate with your pet and train them to be the best pet they can be. It's time to see the world from your pet's point of view. So give a tail-wagging welcome to your Teacher's Pet host on PetLifeRadio.com. You may even learn a few tricks yourself.
Hi, and welcome to Teacher's Pet on Pet Life Radio. I'm Nancy Tolino, and with me today is a very special guest, Mr. Steven Appelbaum, the president of Animal Behavior College, also known as ABC. Welcome back, Steve.
Hi, Nan. It's always a pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you. Well, today we're going to be talking about something really near and dear to my heart, and yours I know as well, and that is the training and care and adoption of shelter dogs.
Yes.
So, and then that's the subject that, over the years, it's sort of untapped. Because people, they have good intentions and they mean well, but it's getting the dog home after all that the dog's been through, what happens from there.
Right.
So that's probably a really good place to start, where people have good intentions, but what happens to them and to the dog and to the family unit once the dog comes home. So we're going to be talking with Steve about a whole bunch of good stuff regarding dogs and their care. That's coming up next, so keep it right here on Teacher's Pet on Pet Life Radio. We'll be right back.
Okay, class, grab your tuna flakes, biscuits, and bones. Teacher's Pet will be back in 2 shakes of a tail, right after recess.
Petco, where the pets go. Petco, where the pets go.
Pet Life Radio has tail-wagging, fur-flying, fabulous deals for our listeners from Petco. Get $6 off your order of $60 or more and up to 40% off the entire Petco site. That's right. But that's not all. Because you're a Pet Life Radio listener, you'll also get free shipping on your order of $49 or more. $6 off, up to 40% off, and free shipping from Pet Life Radio and Petco. To get these awesome deals, go to PetcoDeals.com. That's PetcoDeals.com.
Petco, where the pets go.
I'm not much of a reader, but I do wish I were more well-read.
There are so many great books coming out. I wish I could find a way to keep up.
Audible.com makes it easy to stay well-informed and catch up on your reading simply by listening. Audiobooks from Audible turn downtime into uptime. You'll be more productive and become well-read.
Now I'm able to catch up on all the great books I've been wanting to read.
With Audible, I feel smarter.
Pet Life Radio listeners, try Audible.com now and get your first 30 days of Audible Listener Gold membership plan free. And get a free audiobook. Choose from over 100,000 titles. To get this great deal, go to audibledeals.com. That's audibledeals.com.
Let's Talk Pets on PetLifeRadio.com.
Okay, class, hang up your collars and leashes. Teacher's Pet is back in session. Now park yourselves on the floor. I said park, not bark. Ugh. Okay, Teacher's Pet. Pay attention. There may be a quiz later.
Hi, and welcome back to Teacher's Pet on Pet Life Radio. I'm Nancy Tolino, and I'm here with Mr. Steven Appelbaum. Once again, it's a pleasure to have you here, the president of Animal Behavior College. We are talking today specifically about the care and training of shelter dogs. And Steve, can you give us a little bit information regarding that?
You hit on a really important point. We've always, at Animal Behavior College, we've really always looked at the adoption/shelter dog, I'm not going to say challenge, but equation, as kind of a two-part equation. The first part is getting them adopted in the first place. And,
right.
And certainly shelters across the nation have come to realize over the last 10 or so years that there is a definite correlation between behavior and adoptability. That's not to say that untrained dogs can't be adopted, but it certainly makes it a lot easier for people if when they see a dog that they want to or they're considering taking home, that the dog doesn't jump all over them or bark at them or, just run around in such an unruly fashion as to cause the potential adoptee to look at the dog and go, wow, I'd really like to take this dog, but the dog might be a little crazy or acting crazy. So teaching the dogs in shelter makes them more adoptable. But also, what happens when you bring the dogs home? And that's the second piece. The better the dogs are trained, the easier it's going to be for people when they bring their dogs into what's hopefully going to be their forever home to help them acclimate. And there are some basic things that, as trainers, we can educate shelters about and educate people that are taking the dogs home about. Simple things to understand that the dogs many times have been in the shelters for months. Some of them may have been in homes before they wound up in shelters. Some of them may have been in many homes before they wound up in shelters. We don't know the answer to that in many cases, but there are, as I say, certain things that you can do. Getting the dog on a regular schedule so that he or she is taken out to go to the bathroom, as opposed to just assuming the dog is going to know where to go. We'll start that process off right. Also, feeding the dog and watering the dog at set times. And by watering, a lot of times until you're certain that the dog is completely house-trained, it's best not to leave water around 24 hours a day because if the dog has unlimited access to fluids and isn't quite sure where to go, that can present a problem. So, it's little things like that. If it's a younger dog, making sure the dog has proper chew toys so that he or she can chew on the right stuff, and how to encourage the dog, if the dog is a predilection for chewing, to chew on the correct items. Learning how, although this is typically not something you would do in the first couple of days, most of the time, in some instances, learning how to teach the dog not to run out of a door or a gate so as to prevent the dog from escaping and winding back up in the shelter or worse. So things like this, the typical trainer can do. One of the reasons that we suggested and started Students Saving Lives, which is ABC's program for our students to get into shelters before they graduate and donate a minimum of 10 hours worth of time, is in the hopes that they would build relationships with some of these shelters, because we knew that the shelters would need people to refer to when adoptees would take these dogs home, and then they'd come back and they'd have questions. So a decent trainer will be able to help adoptees with all of these challenges and others. So, that's a very general overview. I can get into more specifics if you'd like.
Yeah, that's a great overview, and you're tapping into a lot of different areas there, structure and training,
yes.
And that lends itself to any age dog, any breed, doesn't matter. Senior dogs to puppies, they all need structure, they all need that feeling of safety and security. But we were mentioning, too, about feeding and for the dogs drinking. Until the dog still is seen medically, too, because a lot of times medical issues, you just don't know if there's something wrong. They might have a problem with their kidney or whatever, and you get a dog home or just being nervous. The dog may not be going normally for a while. Do you know what I mean? So you kind of have to set them up to succeed. And so you don't want, until you know the pattern, so you know how much the dog can handle, you don't want to kind of throw so much food and water at them constantly, because then they might be, soiling inside the house, and then you're setting them up to fail. This way you know for sure how much the dog can handle. Of course, take the dog out right after they eat, that kind of thing. So that's really good.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah, because medical issues...
You must be a trainer, Nan.
And I wonder where I went to school. I learned a lot, Steve, I'll tell you.
I'm glad to hear that.
Absolutely. And it's ongoing, and of course, as we talked about before, how they always teach us too. And I love the program now that you have for shelters with the Students Saving Lives, because it extends, just beyond, individual clients and their dogs, which are important. But now you're really saving lives.
Well, it's funny. When we started Students Saving Lives back in 2004, and this was really our way. I should really give a shout out and credit to my VP of Operations, Debbie Kendrick, because she was the one that initially envisioned this program, Students Saving Lives. But when we launched it in 2004, I certainly knew that shelters would likely embrace it and that there would be trainers, students, that would really wholeheartedly look to get into shelters and give that 10 hours and then some. But I never imagined that it would be well over 90% of our student body that would not only take up this 10-hour mantle, but would actually finish the complete 10 hours, and many would go on to do more. In fact, since '04, we've had 7,100 students complete their 10 hours, which, if you do the math, makes for, well over 70,000 volunteer hours. It's crazy. It's crazy. Whenever I see that number, I'm just kind of floored. But it was because of the success of Students Saving Lives that when we decided to develop our first continuing education programs, or as we call them, CEPs, the number one requested program was for shelter dogs. It's funny, when we were first looking at the idea of the programs, I sat down with some of the upper management people here at Animal Behavior College, and we brainstormed for about an hour and a half, what programs would be best, more advanced business building program, some more complicated behavioral modification programs, maybe separation anxiety, maybe touching on aggression, all these different things. And then it occurred to us that maybe what we ought to do is ask the student body. Hey, there's a thought. So after we were done, we went back and we threw this out to several thousand people over the course of about 6 months. And by far, the number one program that came back, number one suggestion that came back, was to do some sort of a shelter outreach course in which we could instruct trainers, students, as to a little bit more about how shelters work, what they're looking for, what types of behaviors typically are best to teach dogs in shelters, what kind of follow-up, which is what we're talking about now, is most effective once the dogs get home, and so on and so forth. Eventually, we're looking to replicate this with cats. We're not quite there yet, although just to get off topic for a second, the cat program, which is another one of our continuing education programs, has almost enrolled its 1,000th student.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it's just coming up now on a year since we launched the program. It's very exciting, considering that when we were looking to create the program, we reached out to cat trainers all across the country and didn't find very many. I mean, there are certainly cat trainers out there, and anybody listening that's been training for years, please don't be offended. That's not to say there were none. We couldn't find more than about a half dozen to a dozen trainers all across the nation. And even if we missed a few, heck, even if we missed 2 or 3 times the number that were there, that only meant 30 or 40 trainers. So the fact that we've had 1,000 people enroll in this program means that hopefully we will be at the forefront of a new trend. A trend in understanding that cats are trainable and that much the same challenges that exist for them in shelters, actually much the same challenges exist for them in shelters, only it's even worse. The statistics for cats that wind up in shelters, more cats wind up in shelters than dogs, and more cats are euthanized in shelters compared to dogs. And oftentimes these are behaviorally based as well. So, we're hoping that in the future, both our students as well as trainers that have nothing to do with Animal Behavior College, when they reach out to shelters, they do it for dogs and for cats. There's a running joke, which is I always have to get on the kitty soapbox, but that's because I think it's so important, given that there are literally millions of cats in danger every year. Yeah.
They get overlooked. It truly
They do get overlooked, in part because there's a perception that they can't be trained.
Right. And then this could change all that.
That's the hope, which is just to get people thinking about it. I mean, look, there are always going to be people that prefer dogs over cats. There are going to be people that prefer cats over dogs, and there are going to be people that embrace them both for their differences and for the fact that they can both be incredibly loving, phenomenal members of the household. But if you have any kind of a predilection at all towards kitties, to understand that they are trainable, and just for the general public at large to get that, just because they may not be personality-wise the way dogs are, doesn't mean they can't be trained. And, of course, we all know that dogs can be trained when they want to be.
And people still need to understand, especially if they haven't adopted from a shelter yet, that they got to get that out of their head, what was prior in the dog's life. Dogs can be trained, and now we know cats can be trained. Things can change once the dog feels secure, once the dog feels safe, once there's structure, once there's good leadership, things can change. So that old perception, hopefully, I don't know how you see it now with people, but hopefully that's kind of changing over time. That people feel, there's a history. We all have a history, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the same time, fortunately, animals can let go of it quicker than us, but it depends on how we direct them and what path we lead them down, So I just don't want people to overlook shelters, dogs or cats, just by the
that's so true.
Right?
I'm always amazed by that. When you hear of dogs and look, the vast majority of dogs that wind up in shelters are not there because they were horribly abused. They're oftentimes there because they either escaped, especially since 2008, since the economic downturn. And speaking with shelters, we know many people are taking the dogs to shelters because they literally just can't afford their pets anymore, and that's a horrible, wrenching decision to have to make. But the bottom line is that there is certainly an understanding that when a dog comes from a shelter, the dog had a life and a history before you get to the dog and take the dog home and give the dog a loving, affectionate environment in which to thrive and grow. But when you hear the horror stories, of these dogs that are abused, I mean, a person that would go through that would take years and maybe would never, be completely whole after some of the things that you hear the dogs have gone through.
That's right.
And, these dogs that have been sometimes abused and not properly socialized, and, you scratch your head, at least I do, when I hear some of the stories and go, I just don't understand how anybody can do that. I mean, how do you leave a dog chained to a tree for years, and the only reason that the dog is not still chained to the tree is because the neighbors intervened, because these people decided to go away for a week and a half and forgot that the dog was chained. I mean, stuff like that. I mean, it's like, really? Really? I mean, there are actually people like that. Of course, it's rhetorical. We know that there are. But it's still just extraordinary to me that these same dogs, I mean, if it were me, I'd bite anybody that came near me. But these dogs, all they want to do is be loved and love, and it's just phenomenal. So, yes, the dogs do have a history, but as you said, they can learn new behaviors. And, you touched on something else, too, which is older dogs. There's that old adage that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Which is completely untrue. You can absolutely teach an older dog new tricks. In fact, sometimes it's easier to teach an older dog. The only challenge you'll run into sometimes with older dogs is that the ingrained behaviors can be sometimes a little tougher to deal with.
And maybe some physicality, a little bit of maybe a little tougher.
If you're looking to teach your 12-year-old Cocker Spaniel to be in fly ball, you might have some challenges.
Yeah, and a little bit of arthritis getting up and sitting down. You don't want to push them too hard,
Right.
but you want their focus. Yeah. Every dog, like you said, they meet us halfway. Actually, no, they meet us more than halfway. We focus, they can actually make our job so much easier. So I think it's important to realize that, that shelter dogs shouldn't be overlooked. And as you mentioned, cats as well. And you do so much, I mean, it's a lifelong thing. And
it is.
But they give us so much back in return.
I completely agree. I think that the one trend, I don't know that people are more aware of training now than they were 20 years ago. Maybe they are. I mean, I was doing this full-time 20 years ago as a professional trainer, and I had, tons of clients. Now, maybe in certain parts of the country it was more popular than others. I don't really know. But I do know one thing that I believe has changed over the last 10 or 15 years, and that is the whole idea that adopting a dog from a shelter, I think it's much more mainstream now than it was 10 or 15 years ago.
Good. That's good stuff.
And 10 or 15 years ago, certainly 25 years ago, you also saw far more dogs being sold in pet stores than you see today. Which isn't to say it doesn't exist, but because we all know that it does. But it was much more common back when I started training, to see the typical pet store in the mall, was selling puppies. And again, you still see that.
Yeah.
But, to the credit of some of the big box stores that came in,
right.
They changed the landscape in ways that, one could argue are both good and bad. But one thing that neither of the major big box stores in this country do is sell puppies.
Right.
And in fact, both Petco and PetSmart have reached out and donated significant resources, actually, to helping dogs get adopted. And, kudos to them. Kudos to them on that, because if you stop and think about it, had either one of those two stores or had both of those chains decided that, they were going to be in the puppy selling business, I don't know right now how many stores Petco and PetSmart have between them, but it's certainly got to be over 2,000.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, that's something that they should be given credit for.
And I have seen a lot of smaller places close, so in its wake. So yeah, that's a good sign of the times.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, that was, you always hear about, the negative impact that large corporations have, and certainly there is a footprint, and it's not always positive, but it's not always negative either. And in this particular case, I think that it's, clearly if you're going to be fair about it, it's an absolutely positive thing, because it means that, the average person today, when they're looking to get a puppy, don't automatically think, okay, well, I'll go over to whatever, Noah's Little Large Pet Store. Hopefully there's not one of those out there. And, and if there are, this is strictly an accidental. It's just a random name choice, and go buy a puppy.
Right.
People just don't do that the way they did 25 or 30 years ago. So that's a definite change and an improvement. And as more and more people adopt and take dogs into their forever homes and they realize that they have just a fantastic experience with them and it's a wonderful thing, you're going to, success breeds success.
Yeah.
I'm looking at my Basset Hound right now, who's a rescue.
I know. Your answer right there. They're happy, they're content, and they have a forever home.
That's right. So if we can get trainers to do more outreach, to recognize that from the standpoint of being able to make a difference, not to mention the fact that it's also a potentially good way for them to help build their business, and those two are not in conflict with one another. You can build a business and be successful as a trainer and not give up your morality and actually do very, very well while at the same time helping pets and the people that love them. So reaching out to shelters, helping in any way you can will be, as the cliche goes, a win-win.
It is a win-win. On that positive note, Steve, tell us a little more about how people can reach you if they want to attend the school, if they want to find out more about it. Give us the information to contact Animal
the shameless plug. I love that. Yes, if anybody wants to speak with us. Now, understand, for those listeners, what we do is we train people that want to basically take their love of animals and take it to a level where they can go out and make a living in the animal field or in the animal business. So we have three main programs. We have a program that teaches people to be professional dog trainers. That's the one you took. We have a program that teaches them to become veterinary assistants. And we have another one that teaches them to become professional groomers. All of these courses take roughly 12 to 16 months to complete. Really, a lot of that depends on your level of commitment, dedication. And they are a combination distance learning coupled with what we call an externship. So you learn some of the materials in the comfort of your home, some of the theoretical aspects of whatever business you're getting into. And then when it comes to the practical side, because after all, you're going to need to get some hands-on in order to realistically go out there and apply your trade once you graduate, we will set you up with a mentor, a professional that you can work with and observe and get that hands-on experience you need. So in the case of the dog training program, we'd set you up with a professional trainer. In the case of the veterinary program, we'd get you into a veterinary hospital, and the groomer program, we'd get you to a grooming salon. So if you're interested in making, a transition into the pet industry, or for many people, if you have a job that you're comfortable with that's not in the pet industry, but you're interested in doing this as a part-time thing, and we get about 5% of our student body, especially on the dog side, the dog trainer side, that goes through the entire program and then just volunteers. They never charge. They don't set up a business. They just go into shelters and work with dogs and people there and do it just because that's what they want to do and they want to make a difference. But for anybody that's interested in any of this, you can either call us, 888-600-7220, 888-600-7220. Needless to say, that's toll-free. Or you can just check us out on the web at animalbehaviorcollege.com. Exactly like it sounds, animalbehaviorcollege.com.
That sounds wonderful. Steve, you're going to have to come back and visit us again. You give us a wealth of knowledge every time you're here.
And I am open to coming back anytime you'll have me.
Great.
I love you. I love the fact that you've taken a passion and really done something with it. And it's always very, very gratifying for me to be able to speak with former students that have done amazing things. So you're one of the reasons I stay in the business, and certainly one of the reasons why I find this so rewarding.
Yeah.
So you thank me, but I also thank you.
Thank you. So, and I hear the passion in your voice too. So it's mutually appreciated. Again, Steven Appelbaum, the president of Animal Behavior College. Always a pleasure. We will be speaking with you soon. We're going to come back in just a few minutes with more tips on training your adopted shelter dog. Right here on Teacher's Pet on Pet Life Radio.
Okay, class, grab your tuna flakes, biscuits, and bones. Teacher's Pet will be back in 2 shakes of a tail, right after recess.
Introducing the new Bret Michaels Pets Rock collection exclusively at PetSmart. I created it for the pets that rock your world.
Shop the Bret Michaels Pets Rock collection and celebrate PetSmart's 25th anniversary with up to 25% off thousands of items on the PetSmart site. Plus free shipping on orders of $49 or more. Go to PetSmartDeal.com. That's PetSmartDeal.com. PetSmartDeal.com.
Welcome to GoDaddy.com's internet cloud. First, get your domain name from GoDaddy.com. Then, make your business and personal internet dreams come true.
Go to GoDaddy.com. Use promo code TEACHER101. Get a .com domain name for just $7.49. Teacher102 for 10% off your order. Teacher103 for $5 off $30 or more on any items. Or Teacher104 for 20% off one-year hosting plans at GoDaddy.com.
GoDaddy.com. Domains, websites, and everything in between.
Hi, I'm Lisa Smith-Putnam, the host of the new and exciting show, Your Pets, My Dogs, here on Pet Life Radio. Your Pets, My Dogs will feature celebrity interviews, we'll talk to everyday pet owners, and more. Listen, I am here to entertain you each and every week, right here on Pet Life Radio. Again, that's Your Pets, My Dogs. I'm your host, Lisa Smith-Putnam. Your Pets, My Dogs. Your Pets, My Dogs.
Let's talk pets.
Let's talk pets
On Pet Life Radio.
Pet Life Radio.
PetLifeRadio.com.
Okay, class, hang up your collars and leashes. Teacher's Pet is back in session. Now park yourselves on the floor. I said park, not bark. Oh. Okay, Teacher's Pet. Pay attention. There may be a quiz later.
Hi, and welcome back to Teacher's Pet on Pet Life Radio. I'm Nancy Tolino, and as you know, I'm the owner of Peace in the Pack Canine Counseling. And as we were talking earlier with Steven Appelbaum, the president of Animal Behavior College, regarding shelter dogs and their care and the adoption of shelter dogs, you know, this is so near and dear to my heart because they're the reason I got into training and behavioral counseling to begin with. In fact, as you can hear, I have a foster right now, and we're working on some rehabilitation as well. I want to reiterate by saying how important it is for every dog actually to have structure in their lives. Structure and routine are an important part of the caregiving process. But know too that you need to give your dog a clear and concise path to follow. And everyone in the household needs to be on the same page. Consistency is always the key. When you first get your dog home, make sure to take your dog on a nice long walk. It not only releases excess energy, but it creates a wonderful bonding experience between you and your new companion animal. If there are other animals in the household, hopefully they've had a chance to meet before your dog comes home for the first day. Have your dogs walk together in a neutral area before entering the home. This gives them a chance to bond as well and to enter the home together. It not only puts your new dog at ease, but it should curtail any territorial tendencies your other dogs may have as they welcome your new dog home. Once inside, make sure to introduce your new companion animal to the different areas of your home on a leash. This way it'll give your dog security. Resist the temptation to let your dog run wildly throughout the house on the first day. Believe it or not, it's too overwhelming, as he or she will become confused. It can create stress and anxiety. Let your dog learn your home in small increments. Your dog will gradually learn your home. Remember, dogs are den animals, and they like to feel safe and secure. But the most important thing is your pathway, and that's the path that you set. Make sure you provide structure, security, safe boundaries, and of course, plenty of praise and affection. Always set your dog up to succeed. As Steve was mentioning earlier, make sure to feed at set times on a daily basis. Don't stray from the routine. Create routine. Create a pathway. Start your dog on training sessions. When your dog's focused on you, it not only gives your dog a task and a job to do, but it creates a healthier, more balanced dog. Create bonding times. Set aside time for walks and for playtime. Make sure the exercises are age appropriate. Make sure to take your dog to the vet, and make sure any medical issues are addressed right away. Never become frustrated. Be patient, be understanding, and know that your dog is meeting you more than halfway. Your dog wants to please you. You have your dog's attention. Thing is now is how you use it. Start with basic commands like sit, stay, down, stay, and the recall. That's when your dog comes to you. Make these activities fun, and at the same time, your dog is learning. Your dog is always learning. And to tell you the truth, so are you. Be patient, be kind, be understanding, and be supportive. You've already provided the love, the nurturing, and the housing. Now it's time to provide what your dog really needs, and that's you, and a clear path to success. If you'd like more information on training tips, go to my website at www.peaceinthepack.com. Well, congratulations if you've just adopted a dog, and hopefully you're inspired to maybe adopt one in the future. There are plenty of loving dogs and cats in animal shelters all over the country that are looking for their forever homes. Take it seriously and know that you'll have a friend for life And remember that animals are a commitment for life, and rightfully so. The rewards that you get are completely fulfilling and far outweigh anything else. Thanks for listening. Remember, create peace wherever you can for you and your companion animals. I'm Nancy Tolino. We'll talk again next time on Teacher's Pet on Pet Life Radio.
School's in session on Pet Life Radio with Teacher's Pet. Learn how to communicate with your pet, train your pet, and see the world from your pet's point of view. You may even learn a few tricks yourself. Teacher's Pet, only on PetLifeRadio.com.